Welcome back to the Imagineer Galleries. TJ, your host. It's been quite a while. Tonight's topic is designed for those of you who have had a relationship with a narcissistic creature and still have some questions, and something just doesn't seem quite right. I'm here tonight to help with that, and also cover the subject of the question you may ask yourself. Was I ever his or her friend? Or was he or she ever really my friend? We're going to explore that this evening. First off, you know what a friend is. It's someone you can speak with. It can be a family member. It can be a non-family member. Someone you can tell your feelings to, ask questions about their feelings, share experiences, spend time with. You know what a friend is. And then what's an enemy? An enemy is someone who you dislike, someone who's done something awful or said something horrible about you that you just can't stand. You can tell the difference between your friends and your enemies. We can use a high school example. Say you were a high school kid and there was a bully that you couldn't stand. Well, that would be your enemy. You'd see your enemy in the hallway and you'd know instantly, enemy. So if you had to walk down that hallway to go to the classroom and pass by this person, well, no, it's going to do something mean. It's going to say something, or you may be thinking, I'm going to say something mean to that person and show them. But the point is, you can recognize your enemies. They're completely different from friends. You wouldn't spend the afternoon with your enemy typically, but you would with a friend. Well, what you're dealing with here when you've gotten away from this narcissistic creature, it's confusing. It's hard to understand because you think of your situation and what happened, and then you also think about what this creature did, especially when you weren't looking. Your mind gets warped, thinking, is this a friend or an enemy? A friend wouldn't betray me like this. Lie, pretend, or all these things that these creatures do. And it's tough for us to take because we know that we would never spend any time with an enemy. We would avoid them. But in this case, you were dealing with a predator. A person who saw something in you that it wanted. So it pretended to be something else once it met you. It put on a mask and watched everything you said and did. Took notes for all of it. And then appeared to be someone who was very caring, who noticed things and paid attention to you and really liked you. These creatures put a mask on, designed to appeal to you. And you may think, wow, the last few people I met, we didn't get along at all like this. Because this creature, more than likely, went along with anything you suggested. If you had ideas for things and maybe you were self-conscious about something strange you might want to do, for example, when you first met them, maybe you want to be involved in some activity and you're worried because others run away and this one's like, oh, I'd love to do that with you. And that feels good to you because you think of all the ones you were with before that didn't like certain things, that didn't want to be involved in some of the things you liked. So this is like a breath of fresh air. Well, this again was an act. It was a person preying upon you and thinking to itself,
I want this person.
And then if they determine that you're an honest person with good values and believe in things like honesty and loyalty, they're none of those things. You'll never know it because they will put that mask on that pretends to be just like that. So you'll think, oh wow, this is so great, we're so compatible. Everything I suggest, this person just wants to do it all. Oh, this person is perfect for me. What a breath of fresh air. That air is rotten. So you'll find out, if you haven't already, you realize you were intimate with this person. You spent days, hours, weeks, months, years with them. By this point, if they're gone out of your life, you probably think back to some of the things it did and how it went out of its way on many occasions to deceive you, deliberately so it could do things it wanted to do that were usually things it would say that it would never want to do. But an example of this that you may be able to recognize in your situation would be with one of these creatures that you meet. They want to appeal to you, and maybe in one of your first encounters you were distraught because you did something wrong. You made some kind of genuine mistake, and you feel horrible about it. But maybe someone else is giving you a hard time, not letting you live it down, and always bringing it up. So your creature may have come to you and said, what's wrong? And you'd say, oh, well, I made this mistake and this person won't let it go. And you could imagine how this creature will work. It will mirror the situation, take from what you give it, and use it to its advantage. It may hear you say that, and because it wants to appeal to you, it may say something like,
oh, that person has no right to talk to you like that. So what? You made a mistake, you admitted it. Why do they make such a big deal?
And then this is where they'll grab a line from somebody else they heard that maybe had a successful relationship, and they figure, oh, that line works. So they may then say something like,
you know, I'm the kind of person that believes everyone deserves a second chance.
And that's all-encompassing statement. It's not just saying, oh, for that situation, you didn't deserve to be bothered over it. It would be, in general, I think everyone should be allowed to make a mistake. That shouldn't be held against them. However, you may have noticed then, and maybe your next night out together, someone else cut them off on the road or did something, whether intentional or not, that caused distress to them. Maybe took their parking spot, or cut them off on the highway, whatever it may be. Then you saw that person who's made that statement already, then say, and get out of the car and run up to the person and yell at them or attack them, call them names, or say,
I'm gonna get them,
or something like that. Your brain will be warped, thinking, what's going on here? This person just described itself in very clear terms that it thinks everyone deserves a chance. People should be forgiven for making a mistake. And you're thinking of how this person that cut you off in traffic, maybe it was a mistake. Maybe it was not known by the person. Maybe they just accidentally did it. But yet here you're seeing this creature fly off the handle, chasing them down, yelling at them, calling them horrible names, and you'll be confused. Many of us will just watch that, remember what we heard them say about themselves, and then just say nothing. But of course, I got to the point where I'd say, wait a second, why'd you chase after that person?
He cut me off!
I thought you said people should be forgiven for their mistakes. Maybe it was a mistake. How do you know he did it on purpose? You may say those kinds of things. And then, of course, you'll be dragged into the usual.
Oh, I am like that.
most of the time, but in situations like this, I only did that yelling because...
And it's, again, the same old thing that we've discussed a million times, where they're trying to get you to believe in two opposite things together. That I believe everyone should be forgiven for making a mistake, and I only attack that person for making a mistake because of some other reason. And that's hard to take. Well, welcome to the world of narcissistic creatures. Along with the friend situation, you're thinking of the intimate time, the hours, the weeks, the months you spent together, and how you know I would never spend that much time with someone who's an enemy, and thinking about all the things this person did, lying, betraying, cheating, stealing, and whatever else. No friend would ever do that. And then you think there's something wrong with you. Relax. You couldn't have done anything else because these creatures are in character. They play a role for you. And even if you suspect it's a role and say, are you being phony? They'll always say,
Of course not. Why would you say that? I just like you.
and they'll try to make you feel like you're mistaken, that you should be ashamed for daring to even suggest or ask such a thing, which is part of their gaslighting routine. When the truth is, if they're being extremely nice right off the bat, that is cause for concern, because most people aren't like that. And if you notice every song, if you say, oh, I love this song, and I love that song too, and everything else is like that, that can seem phony, because usually there is some kind of disagreement or some kind of differences, but these creatures will seem as if there's no such thing with them. And that's good reason to question, but then again, it doesn't do any good if you're dealing with one of these creatures, because they will not admit it. They put that mask on strictly for you. That's all they have as far as you're concerned. And you have no idea at the time you're in a game, and they're playing this game with you because you're the prey, and they're trying to prey upon you. And they can't let you know that, because they just cannot risk losing this interaction. You're more valuable to them in terms of supply if they see that you do have the values they don't have, like honesty, loyalty, and so on. Because they don't have any of those, but yet they'll claim to. And then if you pay close attention, you'll often see that they don't have those values. They just said they did so they could get in the door with you. You may find yourself having all kinds of conversations like that, like, wait a second, you said you never stole anything. Where'd you get that fancy thing? And you know that they stole it, for example.
Oh, I was so that because...
Well, if you heard those things, those were red flags for you. And they were probably lathered up with all kinds of flattery and favors and nice words for you that you might have overlooked at the time. You can be forgiven for such a thing, because these creatures are very crafty. They're experts at this. You're not the first person they play the game on. They've done this probably for years, and you're just the latest in the game. And as I've said a million times before, by the time you realize that you're in a game, you're usually losing. An example of a perfect parallel story, there's a mouse. You're a mouse. You're running around on the floor in your home. One day you come across a cat, a kitty cat. You know that mice are prey for the kitty cat. Imagine that you ran away. You saw the cat and then you disappeared. That cat at one point sneaks up and catches you in a cornered area where you can't get away. The cat, who is a predator, would love to eat you, is being nice and friendly and helps you. Maybe you're having some difficulty. It reaches out its paw and helps you. It does something nice. Well, you're going to see that, but you'll probably still run away. Imagine that cat chasing after you saying,
Why are you running away from me?
and you're sitting there saying, because you're a cat, you want to eat me. Well, imagine then that cat doing what the narcissistic creature does, where it would say,
Oh, I'm not like the other cats. I'm different. I just want to play. I like you.
and then it may say something like,
If I wanted to eat you, I would have eaten you already. I just want to be your friend.
and then the mouse may say, oh, I don't buy it, then hide into a hole in the wall and avoid the cat. But imagine the cat keeps trying to interact with the mouse. Well, the mouse may still say, oh no, but then the mouse will also think about it and think, well, maybe this cat is different, because it could have eaten me and it didn't. And then I'll play with it for a few minutes. And then you'll be cautious. And let's say it's all smooth. The cat is friendly, plays with you, doesn't hurt you, has many opportunities where it could eat you and it doesn't. And then you may slowly think, oh, well, maybe this cat is different. Oh, and then you feel more comfortable, play with it more and more and more. Well, guess what happens eventually? Eventually the time comes when that cat eats you. You were tricked all that time. You were convinced it was different. It tried so hard to show you how it was different from all the other cats. And that's the way it works its game. Just like the narcissistic creature predator did to you. You were something that it wasn't supposed to have, and it knew it, especially when it learned about your values. And so it thought, this is gold. This is the best supply ever. And so it just figured it will put on an act. With these creatures, words are used as tools. They often use lies and gaslighting. They don't care. It doesn't bother them. And if you're an honest type person and you tell someone a lie for a certain situation, you'll probably feel guilty about it. You may worry about it and think, I better tell them. Okay, just to let you know, I was lying about this. Well, these creatures feel no such desire. In fact, their brain, the way it's thinking, is
Target.
I want that target. It's someone who's honest, nothing like I am, but I want it.
And its brain is thinking, I want it, I want it. So then it uses all these techniques to get close to you, like the cat did, to convince you to give it the time, and then try to overdo it by showing you how safe it is to be around, and how great it is, and how perfect it is for you with all the things it does during the love bombing stage. And let's say it's lying about its ways, like the cat says, I'm not like other cats, even though it's eaten hundreds of mice. They don't get bothered by such things. In their mind, it's real simple. It's like, okay, I want the target, I got the target. They think, who cares if I had to lie to get it? And they see it as a victory. Let's say that you're a rotten, narcissistic, psychopathic creature that's done horrific things. You know this person that you've met as the target is nothing like that, and if they knew what you really were like, they'd run the other way. Well, that's a victory to them. They think that they're powerful and strong if they're able to trick you, like the cat did. The cat got the narcissistic supply because it thought,
I'm a rotten, evil cat that eats and kills mice, and this cat's my friend. Oh, I feel so great, I can't wait to eat it.
that they'll let it drag on and on to savor the flavor of their victory. So there is no regret. There's no remorse. If you were that mouse and the two of you did hang around together for a while before it struck, and then maybe it did strike you and you got away, you might say, don't you feel terrible for lying to me about saying you weren't like the other cats? And it'll say,
No, I'm glad I had all this time to get to you so I can eat you now.
and it will, because that's how these creatures are. They use words just to get things. It's like a currency for them. Doesn't matter if it's true or not. Now, of course, they will use truth, but only when it suits their agenda and it helps them. They're not going to tell you the truth about things that they know might scare you away because they're in this game. And if you dare reject them, they have a very significant narcissistic injury. As far as they're concerned, this is all they are. This is all they have. They're showing this face to you, and if you're not buying it, if you say you're a liar, you're a phony, I don't believe you, that doesn't hurt their feelings as far as being sensitive. It angers them because you're supposed to buy this creature. You're supposed to think this person is nice, not a monster. And if you see through it and say, I think you're a monster, I see through it, I'm out of here, they'll be desperate to cling on to you and prove you wrong, just like that cat did all this time. And eventually it will strike. It may not even strike to your face. It may be starting up another relationship behind your back. And that's the way that it does it. And maybe it'll just disappear one day and say, oh, I'm through. And if that happens, you're left discarded thinking, I thought that was a friend. How could a friend treat another friend like this? It can't. So the answer is, it's not your friend. You never were its friend, and it was never really yours. Even though you were being real, sharing experiences with it, thinking that you were growing together as a couple, you had no idea and you had no way of knowing you were dealing with one of these monsters. They're very clever. They've done this a number of times. It's nothing new to them, and you may think to yourself, because they've mirrored you so much in the beginning that the two of you are alike, you may be tricked into thinking that, where you make personal decisions and you think to yourself, like if it's gone for several hours, you wouldn't dare think it was doing something horrible, usually in the beginning, because it's so sweet and nice. If you do finally get a hold of it, it has a good answer, a good reason. And your mind may be thinking that could be an excuse or a lie. But then again, you have no reason to think that, but your intuition may be telling you that, and it was probably accurate. If you do express concern, they'll simply have an excuse and do something else sweet, lure you on further, and then you'll feel foolish, forever doubting them if their gaslighting's effective. And too often, unfortunately, that's what happens. And we find ourselves in these situations, beating ourselves up, thinking, how could I be with a person who does those things? Well, it's because they tricked you, and you had no way of knowing for sure that they were evil, because they will just cover it. If you heard from someone else that they're evil, they'll have an answer for that.
Oh, that person's just mad. They want to cause me trouble.
Well, the problem is you may hear that a lot, and after a while you have to start thinking, why does so many people want to cause trouble for such a sweet person like you? Are you sure there's not something else to the story you're not telling me? Well, they will say,
Oh, that's silly.
and they won't have any problem lying to you. So you'll be thinking to yourself, like that mouse did, do I trust it? Oh, it's nice. Maybe I can. And then later, no, you can. But it's a process, and they love to drag it out as long as possible because remember, never mind that they're fake and everything they say about themselves is a lie. That doesn't matter to them, and they'll never feel guilty about it. They'll just be happy that they got what they wanted, and that's really all it is. That's all they want. They don't really care about you as a person. They never did. They pretended to. They know how to act like they care. You can usually see without hearing it from them that a person who cared would never do what they did. They may try to be your friend afterwards. Maybe there's a big fight, breakup, whatever. They'll come crawling back to you. Maybe, possibly, if it's not for a Hoover, they could switch your rank. You could then later become a utility for them as far as,
I need that person to make me look good for my new lover. So I'm going to remain friends with you so I can say to the new one, oh yes, I'm friends with my exes. See? We're friends.
when really the friendship is just as phony as the relationship was. But they may use you for that, for their own benefit, and then toss you aside once they've gotten their latest goal. And that's why you shouldn't be too concerned if you see them now with their new supply and they look different. Maybe they have a different hairstyle, they talk differently, they dress differently, they do different things. Well, that's because they're now on their next project and they're mirroring that person. You'll see things in the creature you know that you think you knew so well, and you'll think, that's not the same person. But that's right, the person you were with wasn't real, neither is this one. So be glad you're not dealing with such things. Because these creatures have to go through life hiding what they are. For them to have any kind of success in an interpersonal relationship, they have to deceive. They cannot just come out and be themselves and say, hi, this is me, this is who I am, like you can. They have to put on an act at all times. It requires a lot of effort and work, but the problem is those creatures see that type of deception as being the effort to put into a relationship to make it work, and that's not what you want. You don't want a person who spends all their time deceiving you, pretending to be what they think you want, because underneath it, they're a rotten creature, and they know this. But again, they love to lead someone on and trick them, sometimes for years, decades, and eventually, usually, one day that mask slips off and you see the rotten creature underneath, and then again, you'll be sitting right here wondering, how could I have gotten involved with such a horrible thing? If you were to rewind and go back through the beginning steps again, you'd probably be there with them just like you were again because of the way they set it up for you. Remember, they're experts at these things. That's one of their talents, tricking and fooling people to get them to do whatever they want without telling them what they're doing. So if you've gotten away from the creature, congratulations. If you haven't, hopefully some of these examples will clue you in if you are involved with such a disordered monster creature. And if you are, it's probably best to escape while you can. Even though they haven't gotten all they want out of you, a lot of times they will act desperate to be with you, yet behind your back you'll find later they've been pursuing 3 other people, but they won't ever tell you that. Just remember, they're not a real person. You are. You did have that experience with them, and it wasn't perfect. It was fun for a while because you thought it was a real relationship, but it's not your fault that this person pretended to be something they weren't. You couldn't have stopped it. The best thing is to forgive yourself and treat it as a lesson learned, and just be a little bit more discerning the next time someone comes around, especially if they're instant love bombing right off the bat and acting like they love everything you do, because if that's happening, chances are you're dealing with one of these monsters. And it's not worth it.
I am the Narcopath. I'm in the doctor's office. I'm gonna get myself another vaccine. You know what I mean? Oh, right here. Hit it, boy. I am the Narcopath of your wettest and wildest and nastiest dreams.
TJ wanted me to tell you today. What do I think about you? It's an honest question, isn't it? What do I think about you? To be honest, I don't.
Let's keep it
I
honest.
know. Give me a
Please
break.
be respectful.
Do you want to do this or do you want
No,
me to?
no, you go on right ahead.
Fine. Zip it. Fine. You want to know what I think of you? You may think that you're an astronaut. You may think that you're a loving father or mother. You may think that you're a great student, a wonderful historian, a wine connoisseur. You may think of yourself as any number of things, but honey, the only purpose you served in this world is you were my hands. Period. That's it. You're nothing else as far as I'm concerned. I don't mean to burst your bubble, but TJ wanted me to tell you. He thought maybe it would help you get over me as if you ever will. Because I'm the best thing you'd ever find. You know it. Yes. You are simply my ex. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. I'm not concerned with what you think you are, or how your friends or family identify you as being. None of that applies to me. I got what I needed from you. You were simply an object I needed something from. You gave it to me, and once you figured me out, I couldn't stick around for that. I don't have time for that crap. There are plenty of other gullible ones for me waiting, so I went to them. No hard feelings. The fact is, nobody means anything to me. So the next 6 after you, they were no better or worse than you. It's all the same to me because I'm the Narcopath. Don't you wish you were me?